Hey there, Josefine Wanner. It's
Hi,
wonderful to have you
Angie.
on the Red Couch Talk.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, me too. And it's the first time we actually meet, so
Yeah.
it's a new discovery, which hardly ever happens on this Red Couch Talk. So you might have seen there's some people that I have met 25 years ago, and we meet again, and then others I've recently met somewhere at an event. So it's funny to talk to someone for the first time, and it's
Yeah.
live. Yeah. And as I don't know anything about you, my audience doesn't know anything about you. Let's start with a fun factor. Who is Josephine?
I think it depends on who would be asking. I mean, I have all these roles and hats like so many of us have. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a former corporate executive. So I think it depends a little bit on kind of like what situation are we in, who would be asking. It's that we can't walk into every cocktail room using the same explanation, right? But since we're here today on your coach, I would say I'm a former corporate executive who has turned entrepreneur to build the life that I really want to live. Simple as that.
Yeah, and you have done pretty well for yourself because you are in the Favikon Top 40 Solopreneurship Educator list and one of the world's best known LinkedIn supporters, LinkedIn advisors for coaches.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about, I think if you look at like that very like isolated, it sounds fabulous. If you had asked me or told me that when I was still in corporate, I would have said, no way, never going to happen. Because what was then was I didn't even have a profile picture on LinkedIn. I was terrified of social media. And the jump that I have taken um, is actually massive. It would be like for me back then to jump straight off a cliff, but that's obviously not what happens, right? We take small steps and we dare to do something more and something more and something more. And then all of a sudden you find yourself on a list of top 40 or top one or whatever, right? So yeah, I'm super proud of that. And yeah, but it's taken a lot of time, but it's taken time, it's taken work and dedication and a lot of grit, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. And you know what's funny, Josephine? You and I, we have similar career paths.
Mm.
I worked at AXA when it was still called Winterthur.
Me too, yeah.
It was the first time I actually was in Zurich. After university, I came to Zurich on an internship. And then, I came back later and I also worked in a bank, in a big bank, huge bank. And then I also worked in a big four company. And then I started my business. So we have a similar journey, although we've
Yeah.
never really talked to each other. Or maybe we have and forgot about it, which could also be the case.
Maybe we met at AXA, who knows, in one of the trainings. Or Winterthur it was called back then. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
what brought you initially into this field? What's your why?
Entrepreneurship, you mean? Or
No, I mean, how did you get into like AXA and banks and Big Four? I'm sure there's a interesting let's say segue and turn somewhere that I want to explore further. But maybe you jump in where did you get started?
I think where the path was formed was actually when I was 14.
Oh yeah.
And my parents got a divorce. And then my grandma told me that now you have to look after your mom. My mom doesn't need any taking care of. But I think that kind of set a little bit of a seed in my head
Uh-huh.
that I have to be the good girl. And back then, I loved reading. My biggest dream would be to work in a library where I could just sit there and read all day long or do something more creative than I was doing. My mom was an accountant and had worked her way up to being an accountant. And when I then finished college, my mom said, now you need a job. I'll fix a job for you. So she helped me to get my first accounting job. While I was there in my accounting job, I realized, even though I come from Sweden originally, which is very equal, I realized that I was the only woman in this company of 20 men. I was the person who sat in the reception, um, and doing the accounting, knowing everyone's salaries. I was making the least money of everyone by far. And I was like, if I want to get out of here, I have to do something else. I need to get out of here. And the only way I could see then, because I mean, this is late 90s, right? The only way I could see was to educate myself. We didn't have Google, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have these opportunities back then.
Mhm.
So I applied to a university and got into university. I didn't really know what was happening, but it was like international studies, international financial studies, which, as part of that studies, led me to Switzerland because I thought, remember, no Google, no YouTube, that I wanted to learn proper German. I had had German for 7 years in school. Exactly, exactly. I was like, I'm going to Switzerland. I'm going to learn proper German once and for all.
Mhm.
Landed here as an exchange student in Winterthur, by the way, and realized that they don't speak any German at all. So that's a little bit what happened, what brought me into this. One thing led to another. I met my husband during my exchange studies who worked at KPMG. His brother worked at KPMG. And that's how I got a job at KPMG. So it's like, these introductions, probably taking a little bit like the easy way.
Mhm.
Um, and one thing led to another, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, we talk a lot in my blog, and we talk a lot about the vitamin B factor in Switzerland and
Yeah,
how important it is here
yeah,
to have your network, especially to land a job,
yeah.
but also for everything else. Like, you want to find a new apartment, you need a new dentist or a new hairdresser. Better, you're connected to the circle of trust
Yeah.
because there, you find all the resources that you need. So that's amazing. So then, when and I saw you worked at UBS as well,
hmm
and what happened? How did you end up becoming an entrepreneur, solopreneur?
So I think that, we climb the ladder and the higher up we come and the older we get, and I also have two kids and they are now 13 and 19. And back then, 2019, my second son was born 2012. 2012, and already then, I started to feel this is not really what I want, but I couldn't put the finger on what it was that I wanted. 2018, I did a writer's course in Malaga because I was like, I want to do more creative writing. And that was, I think, now that you look back on it, you see that there were small things that happened, small steps that I took without taking a big step, right? But small things changed. Also, 2019, I did my first proper photo shoot because I was like, I need to have a proper picture on LinkedIn. It needs to be a little bit more lifestyle picture, but at the same time, I didn't really dare to take a lifestyle picture. So there was something in between lifestyle pictures and pictures in a suit, right? Didn't have, as I mentioned, didn't even have a profile picture on LinkedIn, but then did the photo shoots that I could add a profile picture on LinkedIn because I felt that that is what you have to have, right? And things had starting to move. I had also started to seeing a therapist because my husband had had a burnout in 2018.
Oh no.
And things in our family was
Mhm.
definitely a big change also in our family. And I started seeing this therapist. And yes, of course, in the first sessions, we spoke about my husband's burnout, but then we also started talking about me, how I felt. And
Mhm.
I heard myself, listened to myself, speaking to this therapist month after month, how unhappy I was at work. And every single time she said, but do you have to be there? And I couldn't see another way out of there. I didn't know how to work with a coach back then. If I would have known that that could have been an opportunity, I think things would have been different. But I didn't see that. And with a therapist, you only work more like in the past and less in the future, what happens next.
Mhm.
And I heard myself complaining about my colleagues. The only way out I saw was to quit, but I didn't dare to quit because my husband had quit his job, so everything was on my shoulders. Then one day in September 2019, I got a phone call from my dad. He had been feeling ill, but we didn't know what it was. And then that day, I learned that it was pancreatic cancer. And my Google research said that if he was lucky, he would get 3 more months to live.
Mhm.
And I hung up from that call. and I was like, what am I doing here? Because I had started to counting my days to my retirement at UBS. Only 7,355 days more to go. And I was like, if I live like my dad, work until I'm 65, then maybe I'm lucky and I get 5 more years to live. That can't be it. So 4 weeks after the call from my dad, I handed in my resignation and I had no backup plan. I just knew I had to get out of there. But Angie, what really helped me, and you actually mentioned it too, the whole journey that we had taken from Winterthur and Big Four and a big bank. I had been successful in a career that I actually didn't want to have in the first place. And I was thinking, if I do what I really want to do, imagine how successful I can be then. And I think that really helped me to just say, I'm out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to do something else. But as I mentioned, I was terrified of social media. So it was a bit bumpy road in the beginning. But I think we all overcome that. If we just overcome the fear of the first step, then it will just continue rolling, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had this conversation at least twice today about,
Really?
like always with my clients, it's always about, if you start to take the first baby step,
Yeah.
then, you're already walking in the right direction. It's just very often what I notice is, what I said to one of the clients today as well, is you're trying to run a marathon without having even gotten the capacity to walk 5 miles. Like
Yeah.
most people, they set the goals way too high. Then, they start like with a lot of energy. Then they get disappointed because success doesn't show this fast. It's a continuous effort to build a business or anything, even finding a job. It's such a marathon now to find a job in this job market. So people need to learn to take smaller steps. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, where we coaches help them. It's
Mhm.
not maybe they have the dreams, but then, we help them, we handhold them through the baby steps.
And maybe also to phrase that dream, because
Yeah.
even if we have it inside of us, to actually put it out there, to tell someone else about our dream, which we feel I can't tell my husband or I can't tell my spouse, I can't tell my mom. I didn't even dare to tell my mom that I had quit my job until after my father had passed away. He passed away 2 weeks after I had quit my job, so I never had time to tell him about it.
Oh,
And I also had a really good coach back then, and she said, like, continued working with her, and she said, so you have an audience of one, my mom, right? I had been doing everything for an audience of one. And I think, we need someone like an external viewpoint who just gives us these little like nuggets, and you're like, oh, that is so true, right? Like now you spoke to your clients about this marathon, they will be like, yeah. And then you compare yourself with everyone else who's online, or you see someone saying, "Oh, I made 6 figures." I was actually one person I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and they claimed to have made 1 million within the last, like, 1 million, and the company has only been there for 6 months. But she pitched me 4 years ago, so I'm like, not quite true, right? So we need to take those stories and kind of like it's not what looks like an overnight success is usually something that has been going on for years, right?
yeah, yeah. And also every person's situation is different. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's easy, for people to shine when, they have a trust fund in the background. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so, like maybe sometimes the stories need to also, go through the truth detector a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, when people tell me, well, you had a husband, yeah, my husband had quit his job a year before that, and he was still not, everything under control. But I told him, I said, I have to get out now. And he said, yeah, we'll manage. Somehow we'll manage. And we have managed, right? We had to cut back on everything that we could in the beginning.
Mm.
So it's like it's to make conscious decisions. What is really important to me? Is it that additional sneakers? Or I had one client, he wanted to keep his boat. Well, if you want to keep your boat, then maybe you have to stay in the position where you currently are, right? It's like it's these conscious decisions that we need to make.
Yeah, right. And I totally admire you for making, for making the step, especially in that risk situation. But I really sometimes feel like these life-changing moments, they come
Mhm.
from personal experiences. And,
Mm.
you mentioned you saw your parents get divorced at 14, where, you're also in a phase where normally as a teenager, you want stability, you want safety, you want your parents to be happy with each other. You don't want them to get divorced. It's like sometimes, what maybe has been a traumatic event at the time has then become a source of strength for you.
Oh
Because
yeah, and
also,
I say to everyone who says, "Oh, we need to stay
yeah,
together for the kids." I'm like, "No, no, no, that's the worst thing that you can
yeah,
do." For me, the best thing that happened was that my parents got a divorce. They actually got back together later, but it
nice.
that's a different story. But they were arguing all the time, and that was a lot of stress for me and
Yeah.
my I have a younger sister, she's 7 years younger than I am. That was a lot of stress for us, right? But I think it's like, as you say, it all shapes us in different areas, and we all have our struggles, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
very good. And now, like one of my questions is always, what would you tell that younger version of yourself, or, maybe one of
Mm.
your children getting into the workforce now? What kind of advice would you give them?
So the funny thing is, when I quit my job, my youngest son was really upset with me. He was like, "So you're no longer a boss at the bank?" Like that is like for him, it was like such a status. Like I got rid of that status immediately. But I also have done this, and I would tell my former self that don't be afraid. Like just try these things, right? Why not just travel the world, see what happens, right? I also tell my oldest son is 19. He finishes school now in a few months. I said, Take it easy, things will work themselves out, go travel, go see the world, and then you can always continue. I also think they have so many different, maybe a little bit too much options today compared to what we had before, with everything, and everything looks shiny and great on social media. But I think it's everything will work itself out. That's what I think, and that's what I would have wanted to tell the
Mhm.
younger Josephine too.
Oh, beautiful. I don't have to ask you where your favorite networking platform is. I assume it's LinkedIn.
Yeah, but and I can tell you why. I can tell you
Why?
why. It's
Yeah,
because
tips.
so so when I quit, as I mentioned, I was terrified, right? And especially of LinkedIn. That's where my banking colleagues were. But I was also equally afraid of Facebook because that was where my kindergarten friends were, right? So I
Uh,
didn't want anyone to really see me. So I actually I created an account on Instagram first under my business name, which was the translation of my village in Sweden, so that no one would ever be able to find it. That's where I started. That's where I started. Because I thought that Instagram was more creative, more freer. That's also where, all the big coaches are, the big people that were really successful. So I thought that's the place to be. But
uh,
I didn't really dare to start showing up there either. And I had a business coach at the time, and she said, "You have to go live on stories every single day. You have to go." And I mean, I didn't even dare to post. So going live on stories, that's absolutely not happening. And then I started to dare to hang out a little bit on LinkedIn, started to comment, started to connect with people, but really focus on people that I like to connect with, like-minded people. And I started to have so much fun, like real discussions. It wasn't for me to sell. Of course, and through that I attracted clients. I remember the first client I attracted through a comment on someone else's post, and I was like, this is crazy that this works, right? But I didn't think that much about it. And then people started approaching me and telling me, "I want you to teach me about LinkedIn." And I was like, "No, no, no. I'm not doing that, right? You should go to the gurus." And I had one person, and she was like, "No, no, no. I really just, you have to sit me through it." And she had 700 connections at the time, and she was all over the place. She's a Pilates teacher, entrepreneur, coach. She had been a stewardess. She had broken her neck as part of that, so she was let go of. So she had and she's a journalist, so she knows how to write, but she just didn't dare to show up on LinkedIn. So I said, "Okay, Annette, let me take you through my framework." And then I spoke to my business partner. I was like, "What is my framework? Like what do I do?" Right? So we sat through it, and then I came up with my 5-step framework, and I told Angela about it, and she was like, yeah, but you just gave me 4 steps. We need a fifth step. And I was like, oh, we need a fifth step. What is that then? So that was a little bit how my framework was started. And
Uh-huh.
then I took Annette through it, and she was like, oh, Josephine. And then I said, okay, Annette, I'll take you through it in 6 weeks. And she was like, I need more than that. I said, let's start with 6 weeks. And I didn't really think it would work out. In week 3, she said, I got my first client. And I was like, are you kidding me? She got 2 more after 8 weeks. And I was like, oh, this is really working. I need to share it with the world and set up my first masterclass. I've done loads of live launches and masterclasses before, so that wasn't new to me. But I was like, okay, let's set up one masterclass about LinkedIn, running some ads to it, see what happens. 574 people registered for that one. I was like, oh my God. Like before, I had the same business coach who told me about going live on stores. She had put on a little bit like a glass ceiling on you have to have 300 people in a launch. I never broke that ceiling because it created a little bit like, a glass ceiling. So I was like, I couldn't get over those 300 people. And then with the LinkedIn event, boom, all of a sudden we were over 574, we were 574 people. So that's a little bit how the story started with LinkedIn and just having fun and embracing, connecting with people in a very open way, actually.
Yeah. Um, honestly, I think also you have to do these things with a bit of like this like playful fun element.
Yeah.
Um, if you just think of the outcome or the end result, you might get disappointed. But if you see it like as a creative outlet, also as like as an experiment, as something, you just want to do because you want to do it, no matter what the outcome is, I think these things get a lot more valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you, I don't know about you, but if anyone would have told me, in banking about energy and, things like that, I would have said,
Shoo
bullocks.
shoo.
That's not happening. But I really believe in energy and, that when you send someone a DM or a connection request in your head thinking, I'm going to sell to this person, they feel that, right? Immediately.
Yeah.
So, I think we have, and everyone on LinkedIn is not our ideal client. Everyone that we connect with is not our ideal client, but we also don't know who they know, right? So we need to be open, and they might not be aware of the problem that they have, or that they maybe they are solving the problem together with someone else. We don't know that, right? But to be open and welcoming, that will open so many opportunities for us, and to pick the platform where we really enjoy being independent, if that's LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. And I think, also that can change.
Hmm.
My favorite used to be Twitter, but
Oh, really? I've never been on Twitter.
I
Yeah,
had
never
to
been.
leave Twitter because it
Yeah,
got such a mess now.
yeah,
It
yeah.
used to be that used to be my thing, like
Oh,
15 years ago. It's very short. I like to play with words. I'm what sort of, like a wordsmith. I
yeah,
had 7,000 connections there. It was like, and it grew so fast. I was still,
yeah,
I'm still working at the big four company at the time.
yeah,
So I was like, oh my God, now I know people everywhere in the world. And, we're not even talking about something relevant. It was like,
yeah,
chit chat. I mean, honestly, I met my programmer that I've been working for the last 15 years was on Twitter. We're friends. I
yeah,
went to his
yeah,
wedding in Pakistan, like we're friends now. Well, we met
yeah,
on Twitter. Like this is,
yeah,
it's crazy if you think about it.
yeah.
I also
No, but
introduced him
that's
to his
how.
wife that I also met on Twitter.
But I mean, isn't that the coolest thing with social media? So
Yeah.
so I hosted a presentation yesterday for a bunch of Swedish ladies, and one of them said, I only connect with people that I have met in real life.
Mhm.
You can use it for that, absolutely. But I think you're missing out on so much if
Oh
you
yeah.
just think that I can only or I should only accept connection requests from people that I've met in real life.
Yeah. And you know, those spammers you can always get rid of right
Oh
away.
yeah,
Like
you can
those who send
unfollow
you
or block them. Yeah.
the automated messages or the princess, the shakes. Have you
Yeah.
also got this?
Yeah. You're like, really?
I usually engage in a little conversation and I'm like, goodbye.
Bye bye. Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
funny. So totally digressed here. So we were talking about networking.
Mhm.
Um, you have sort of an international story. So, you know, like this is also a bit about expatriate
Mhm.
journeys. Also, you know, like arriving in Switzerland. Is there any tip that maybe you would have for a newbie, somebody who's new in this market?
I think so. When I was an exchange student, right?
Yeah.
I already knew German, even though at the time, I mean, I could order a coffee and a, and how do you call it, like a bun at the cafe. That was like the level, even after 7 years studying it in Sweden. Um, and then I started working at KPMG. And I had met my husband, and we were dating, and I told him that you have to talk Swiss German to me because my boss at the bank, not at the bank, my boss at KPMG had said, "You're the reason why we have to talk high German here." I mean, this was a different time too, right? I can't remember, we were only two foreigners in the department, and that also what I think it's a little bit like you have to be a little bit of stubborn. You have to have a little bit of grit. You had like just say, okay. So I told my husband, you have to speak Swiss German to me. And he was like, no, I don't. Well, then you won't understand what I'm saying. And I was like, yeah, no, you have to do it. And then he said, I don't know if your speakers understand Swiss German, but it's like, "Kan vi gå poste?" And that's, shall we go to the grocery store? And I was like, why do you want to go to the post office? And he was like, see, I can't speak Swiss German with you
Please,
because you won't get what I'm saying.
even the high German speakers would be confused about that.
Exactly.
What
And
is
then
it?
it
What
took a
is the post?
year.
Why are we going to
Yeah.
the post?
Exactly. And then it took a year, and I was like, I understand it, I understand it, I understand it. I have no clue. No clue. And I think back then it was probably a little bit of this fake it till you make it. I think I
Yeah,
probably ran that fake it till you make it, right?
yeah,
Pretend as if you understand. I had a colleague who was from St. Gallen. I was like, yeah. I had no clue what he was talking about, right? Or I had an audit in Bern. I came there alone and I was like, no clue what they were talking about. But it's like pretending as if you're understanding everything and then just go with the flow in a kind way and I don't know, supportive way. Be open. That's what I would want to say, right?
yeah. So try to integrate as much as possible, learn
Yeah.
the language, learn the dialect too. Um,
I think that is pretty important actually. I mean, even though I speak high German, but with Swiss German words, but I'm fluent in German. I'm fluent in Swiss German. Um, when I write on LinkedIn, it's always in English, except if I write with Swedish friends and colleagues. But it's yeah. I connected with someone who is also a LinkedIn teacher in Switzerland, and he said, I think you do know German, he said in the DM, not very friendly. And I said, yes, I do. I actually speak it. I'm fluent in both German and Swiss German, but I still prefer writing in English. I think it's also a little bit like boundaries, right? Setting like this is this is what I'm willing to do, right? Because he
yeah,
understands English,
yeah.
right?
And I mean, it's also the question, you know, who's my audience? Like I'm
Exactly,
German, but I
exactly.
write in English because my audience is English speaking.
Yeah, why would it? Yeah.
Sometimes I respond to comments in German, and then I think I've started to do that now because I feel like some people don't know that I speak German
Yeah,
because you know my audience is English speaking, so mainly
yeah,
everything I do is in English. Yeah, it
exactly.
can be confusing, and it's not to be let's say exclusive that we use English. We use English to be inclusive.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, we both worked in big, huge organizations. Our network is global.
absolutely.
It would be weird if you would only post and speak in German. And it would be even weirder with a small market that Sweden is
Yeah,
to only write and speak in Swedish, right?
yeah, absolutely right. I just had another question, or final question, probably. But you mentioned earlier that you also started with writing.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any like books coming up? Do you have a blog?
Oh no.
Where do where do you
You know,
write?
I did write a book,
Uh-huh.
but it was a novel and it was a
Yeah.
thriller actually.
Uh-huh.
So when I quit my job, that was what I wanted to do. And um I did I took a lot of like creative writing courses, and I think that has actually also helped me with what I do today.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to write this book, and I got the book written, 100,000 words. Um, it has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an ending. It was an editor who looked at it, came back to me. In Sweden, you're not publishing through an agent. You're actually publishing through that you send the book to publishing companies directly.
Mhm.
And I sent it to the four top publishing companies in Sweden, probably because I don't because it's also I live here in Switzerland, right? But to publish a book in Sweden means you have to go to every library, every bookstore, every, fair, and I wrote in Swedish. So it wouldn't even be possible for me to publish a book. So I probably self-sabotaged that a little bit. I could have sent it to other companies. I got respond the biggest company didn't even respond. Um, Two rejections, and one company said, "Oh, this was really interesting, but we don't accept any newbies." And for me, that was like, okay, I'll just place it in my drawer. I have done that. The book, I have completed it. Maybe it will come back. I don't know. Maybe the story was just that I needed to get it out and show to myself that I can actually write the 100,000 words. Um, but I also got so, stuck. I analyzed every single word, every single book that I read back then. I analyzed according to this curve that you should have when you write a novel. So no, I don't have a book coming out, but that doesn't mean that it will never happen. You
Yeah,
never know. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you've already started then to build an author page and an audience, and these things, they are also really relevant when you want to be a published author.
Yeah.
It's not enough to be a good writer. You
Exactly,
also,
exactly.
yeah,
And
you
I
need
didn't
to
have any
market as
audience.
well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any audience at all. And to bring out to bring out a novel today to my public speaking gigs about LinkedIn or motivation and confidence and things like that and say, oh, by the way, you can buy my thriller here. That would be like, really? Why would I do that? Right? In Swedish too.
Yeah.
So no, it doesn't. At the moment where I'm currently at, it doesn't make any sense. If I would write a book, it would be more a business related book.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't have the idea or the energy or the time to do it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. That's a bit of a problem. Like I have this problem as well. Like once you get booked and busy, it's
Yeah.
hard to keep the writing routine going on.
Yeah.
So what I sometimes write when I go on vacation, or I
Mm.
have my newsletter, and then the newsletter
Yeah.
I have to, like, I force myself a little bit to write something every week
Yeah.
for the blog. But like it gets harder the busier you are to be
Yeah.
creative, because then
Yeah.
you're always in this delivery mode, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you
And
have
do you have
something you
any
want to
launch?
promote or you want to
Yeah,
share, and
yeah,
then your newsletter or your post needs to fit into that promotion.
yeah,
So you can't also go like
yeah, yeah.
abroad either, right?
Oh, do you have a launch or something coming up? I think you promised us a gift for our readers that we can put in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would actually give them, because what I see most people either think that the LinkedIn profile is good enough, which is usually is not, or that they have no clue where to even start. So we'll give them absolutely the blueprint that they can just
Uh-huh.
download and then they
Awesome.
can use that. But I also run regular trainings.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, if they download the blueprint, then they will get on my email list and then they will be invited to the trainings that I do. I
Yeah.
do LinkedIn lead training coming up soon. And I also do regularly because it's not enough that we just have an audience. We also have to have something to sell. So I also help my clients to build a scalable offer, because getting the one-to-one clients, that's good and that's nice, but we need a scalable offer or we will just work our butts off. So we need the scalable offers too.
Okay, great. And people can also connect with you directly on LinkedIn, right?
100%. I'm all about connection, in particular on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was fantastic talking to you, Josephine. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you
And
so much for
I hope
having me. And this has been a
yeah,
pleasure.
we can catch up at an event
Oh, we
in
must
Zurich
do.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah, we must do.
All the best.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.